Again, good evening to everyone who's joined. We'll start in about a minute. We're just waiting for all the people who are joining. I hope all of you can hear me. Okay, so before we start, I hope all of you are able to hear me. So let me tell you something about myself. I'm Parth Sharma and I teach English at Kendriya Vidyalaya Karimganj. And I am no designer per se. I'm no designer by profession, but I just do this as a hobby. And out of hobby, I learned some little nitty-gritties, some little details that help me make better presentations. I don't make the world's best presentations, but definitely better than most people make. So I'll try to give whatever I've learned uh, in this journey. I've been interested in design since I left college. I had also worked as a graphic designer once, just after college, and left that to come into teaching and everything. So whatever I've learned, I'll try to give it to you. Or everything will not be possible in an hour, but whatever nitty-gritties will be relevant to teachers, I'll try to give them to you. And so if your presentation looks like the one you're looking at the screen, that means you're not really that good at making presentations. But after this workshop, I hope you're able to transform your presentations from looking like this to looking like this. So this is absolutely done in PowerPoint. Everything that I will show you today, I've used no other software. It's 100% done in PowerPoint. So it is very easy to do all these things in PowerPoint. So we'll start by learning from the mistakes that we make. So the first mistakes, if we don't make those mistakes, our presentations will be automatically better looking. So we'll start with those mistakes. The first mistake is text overload. We tend to really overload our slides, every single slide with a lot of text. So if we overload our slides and only text is visible, our slides won't be appealing at all. So if it's for, let's say, a sample slide like this, only text and nothing else. So I don't think it will be that beneficial to anyone who is looking at your presentation, and they can instead do anything else apart from reading this text because they're not interested. They're looking at a presentation because they want to see something, whatever, especially with students. They already have a textbook in front of them and they don't want the same information to be portrayed on a projector if they can instantly read that in their textbook, which is better for them. So don't overload your text with the overload your slide with text. And the second is bullet points. So we love bullet points. All of us love bullet points, especially making presentations. We try to think that as many bullet points as possible in every slide, and that is how a good looking presentation and how a perfect presentation is made. But that is not the case. Bullet points should be used very effectively. If the problem with bullet points is this, that if you make bullet points like this, right, sample slide, and people will start reading, and if they'll start reading, they won't look at you. They won't look at you, and then when they read, when they have completed reading, they won't listen to you because they already know what you're going to talk about in the slide. So don't give out, number one, all your information at once. If you have a lot of information to give, which is indeed in point form, don't try to give it out in just one go. try to separate it. So let's say this is a sample slide. Most of us might think this is actually a good slide. There is color, there's color coding, there's lots of information, and it's also designed, there's a title which is bold, but it can be made better. I'm not saying that this is a bad slide. This is not a perfect slide, is what I'm saying. So how can we disintegrate this text and we can distribute it into other slides like this? So this is, now we're just focusing on one particular thing, and rather than having information being bombarded on us and we'll be confused. So instead, we'll just focus on one single thing. So same, we just divided the 4 types of sentences into 4 different slides, and this is what made the difference. We can, if you don't want that, you can also do it like this, which is an easier way, and this is also better than those bullet points. Number 3 mistake is fonts. Now fonts are at the core of designing. Some companies even have just a font, a different font as their whole logo, that the whole identity of a company can be just a single font. And even in design, fonts define a lot of things. So before I go and tell you what problems fonts can have, I'll try to talk about what are the different kinds of typefaces. Typeface is basically a font, a technical name for a font. So this is how you can see what is the problem with the font. So what are the typefaces? There are usually 2 types of typefaces. First is serif, the second is sans serif. Serif is the font which has these ligatures. I hope you can see these ligatures, these extensions, which make the text look more beautiful. And sans is just without, okay? Without serif, without these ligatures is sans serif. So sans serif doesn't have these ligatures, and that is why it looks clean. So when we come to textbooks, so textbooks, the text is short, it's very, very small, and that is why textbooks prefer these ligatures, sans serif fonts, so that they get additional help in reading the text when it is small. But when it comes to presentations, where the text is really large and it can be portrayed, it is being portrayed on a projector, these ligatures, these little niggles, actually distract us from reading. They're not that helpful. That is why we use mostly sans serif fonts in presentations in which the text is going to be very, very large. So try to use only sans serif fonts as much as possible in your presentations. Forget about serif fonts in presentations. So these are the fonts that I would suggest you personally, that you can use any of these fonts. All of them are sans serif fonts, and I have used only this font within one particular font called Helvetica in this whole slide, and which is why I've come to the next point, where the font size. What is the font size in your ideal slide presentation? The font size actually determines the amount of content that will be there in the slide. So as I said earlier, the amount of content should be less so that there is more to focus on. So if the font size is less, you will have more space in your slide, and you might think that there are more things that you can add. So instead, there's a trick that you can use big font sizes, so you will automatically cut down on the content that you want to give out, and you will distribute it evenly throughout various slides. So this font size 40 can be used for all the content that you want to give, and font size 80 or anything less than that can also be used for headings and things like that. The fourth thing is colors. Now, colors are very, very important, but they can actually be a hindrance. And how will that happen? Let me show you. But before that, let me show you what colors can do to your slides. They can actually bring your slides to life. Okay, from being a black and white presentation to a colorful presentation actually takes the slide to a whole new level. Now, what is the problem with colors? If you don't know things about colors, they can actually hinder rather than help you in your slides. So if you are not being able to read this, that is because of the color that I've chosen for the text. The color that I've chosen is all very dark and in a dark background. That is why you're not being able to read this. But we come to this concept of contrast. What is contrast? Contrast is basically when uh, uh, two colors which are of the opposite end of the spectrum are placed together. So a light color is placed in contrast with the dark color, and the dark color is placed in contrast with the lighter. So here, as you can see, these three colors which are light, which are placed in a black on a black background, dark background, are popping out really well. They're very easy to look at, and they're easy on the eyes. Rather than these three colors, they're not that good. They're straining. There's a little strain on the eye in this dark color, right? And same is the case if we go on the opposite. Now we can see that the dark colors are shining the best, are the easiest on the eyes. They're not straining, but this yellow is not that easy to look at. So contrast should be kept in mind when you're using colors in your presentations. And how do you choose colors then? So if you're not like a practiced or if you're not studied color theory, you're not a designer per se, neither am I. So how do you choose colors? Very basic tip would be to just go to Google and type color palettes. You'll get various color palettes like this, just like these that I've placed on the screen, and you would get a lot of options in the images, and you can choose accordingly whichever subject you like, whichever color scheme you like. If you want it dark, you can choose a dark color palette. If you want it light, you can choose a light color palette, things like that. So remember this color palette. If you want to implement good colors in your slides, remember color palettes, Google color palettes, and choose colors from those colors. So there's a very good video on YouTube on color theory, and I've linked that here, and you can watch it because I'll be sharing this presentation with you. At the end of the presentation, I'll be sharing the link to this presentation. You can watch it. We'll skip this for now, but this will definitely help you in understanding what colors are all about. From colors, we come to the implementing the concept of color theory, which is contrast. So let's say there's a background like this, and there are there's a text that I want to write. So now I've showcased how two colors, black and white, although are readable, although legible, are not the best choice because they're not popping out that much, right? So how do we tackle this? We can tackle this very easily by adding a background which gives our text a contrast that it needed, right? So either you can do this or you can add that background to the whole slide that will give you a better readability of the text. So this makes for a better title presentation. So if your presentation looks like this, you can easily focus on what the presentation is all about, and the visual imagery is obviously there. Now we move on to images. A very nice segue from the previous image that we saw as to how to use images in your presentations. Most people definitely try to make their presentations as beautiful as possible. Then they try to implement as many elements of design, and one of them is the first thing that comes to their mind is usually images and pictures. But instead of helping them, their images can be counterproductive at times if they don't know how to use the images correctly. So how do you use images correctly? Number one, as we see, the previous concept of contrast has also not been kept in mind, and you don't place text directly on a similar background with similar colors. So because that reduces the readability of the text. So instead of slides like this, you can convert them very easily to slides like this, right? So if your slides look like this, the students will also feel that you have actually made the effort and there is something professional that is going to be delivered by you. So if your slides look like this, then they say this is a half-hearted attempt, and the students might think this has been downloaded from some website online, and you just come here to read out the content of the slides. Rather than that, you make it a very attractive proposition for the students to sit down and listen to you what they're going to say because this looks so attractive. Now, you might think that this is a very, very difficult thing to make, but instead, I just took this image, the background image from Google, right? You don't actually have to sit down and design everything. Now, with the internet, design people share a lot of their designs online, and you can definitely get help from them. So I just took this background image from Google and I placed the text at the right places with the right font, with the right color, and this is how the images turned out to be. Now, if you're using pictures in your science classroom and you begin with this slide, the students might not like it because it's intimidating at first. There's a lot of information, and they might think that, yeah, we've seen this image in our textbooks as well. So what is so new about it? So instead, if you want to get their attention, start with something like this, right? So this will definitely, if you just start your slide with this and stay at this, the whole class will definitely, this will definitely catch the attention of everybody in the class, and they'll think that today they're going to learn about heart, which is actually at the center of their, you know, uh, living center of their body, which is with the location and everything, arteries and veins, everything is visible. So this is more attractive. This has more appeal to the slide than this slide directly. So after this, you can definitely go to this slide and you can continue with the information that you have to give. But in order to attract the attention of the class, you can definitely begin with something like that. So again, going with the same concepts, you can start with something like this with a big picture and the text. So if you're teaching, let's say history has some iconic images that you can use, and you can definitely get help from that. So if you place something like this in the classroom, and the students will definitely be quiet on their own. You don't have to say anything or do anything. Let the slide do something for you because you made so much effort into putting this slide, right? So let this do something for you. If you're putting something like this in the class, it will definitely get the students' attention, and they will want to know what is this that you're talking about. Even in civics classroom, something like this to start with, bringing the outside world, bringing the reality into the classroom. And so in this slide as well, if I had to explain, I've done nothing. I've just taken this background picture from the internet. I made 3 rectangles. The first rectangle is this green one, and let me show it to you. Just a second. So this is the first rectangle that I made. This is the second rectangle that I made. This is the text. This is just the text. This is the third rectangle. And this is an image, and this is an image. So there are only 4 or 5 elements which are combined to make this slide look like this. Even in science, in chemistry. So wherever you don't even have, let's say, an image where you can take, for example, in democracy, you had a picture of people, but in solutions, you might not have people pouring in solutions. Or so even a generic image would do the job of getting people's attention. Now, what to do about topics which don't have any pictures at all? What you need to do is just Google design abstract pictures or good looking color pictures, beautiful pictures, something like that. Okay, just make sure you write abstract, so they're not real life, right? So anything would look good here, anything that I write. So because the background is good looking, and we put a contrasting rectangle on top of it, and we can write very easily whatever the topic we're going to teach, and it would look decent, presentable. Now we're done with the mistakes that most people make in their slides when they're trying to design them. So now we come to the tips and tricks as to how you can improve by just not making those mistakes and adding these certain tips and tricks that can help you make better presentations. So the first tip is the visual textual dilemma that most people have, this visual textual dilemma. So if your slides are more visual, they will definitely be more appealing. As you can see, it's the same thing written here. For sale, a medium-sized blue circle with colorful sparkles around it. You have to say this, so the person has to make an effort to read this. Here, the eyes are automatically taking it in. The person doesn't even have to, even if the person is looking at it, they've taken whatever message you have to give. So that is why most of the advertising is in picture form. And even if it is in text form, it is not like this. It's very, very bold. It's in your eyes, so that you don't take your eyes off it. If you're writing something, if your slides are textual, so the person who is sitting in front of you will have to make the effort. But most of the times with students, they're not that eager to know what you're teaching about, because they think that's not that important. So the case with every teacher, but might not be with some of them. So but with most of them it's the case. So if your text slides are more textual in nature, you will have some difficulty. So try to be more visual. Try to include as many visual elements as possible. Number two is transitions, right? This is also a mistake per se, but this is a tip that if you are making transitions like this in your slides, if your slides look like this or like this, right? People generally think that this is what makes the slide look more professional. This, if I add this, this is what will make people think that I have put effort into my presentation. But indeed, that's the opposite, because everybody knows that these things exist inside, and you just have to click a button in order to get it. But what purpose does this solve? These transitions, they don't solve any purpose, right? If there is a transition that solves your purpose, if you want a slide to go from left to right because there is something on the right that is coming to follow up something that was on the left, that is when you will use a transition. But otherwise, these transitions are unnecessary. They don't really add up to whatever purpose. They don't actually have a purpose unless you have a design element that you want to show uh, how it functions or how it works, or there's a timeline that you have, right, and it wants to continue. So that is when you will pan your slides from left to right. Otherwise, there's no purpose in using these transitions, and they just distract the students. It actually takes the attention away from the slide. As you might have noticed, I haven't used any of these as in any of the transitions in my slides. It has been very, very smooth, and it has not been felt necessary because it is unnecessary. Tip number 3 is to use GIFs. What are GIFs? GIFs are basically moving pictures. Okay, and we all see GIFs in WhatsApp and all the other messaging services. All of them have GIFs now. And why don't we use them in our presentations? Because they make our presentations come alive actually in reality. So you get GIFs online if you just write whatever GIF you want, and you write GIF. So let's say I want a GIF of a cycle, and I write cycle GIF. I will get GIFs of cycle, and you write this in images.google.com. And if you're teaching science and you want to show something, the colors of the flames of different compounds, you write colorful flame GIFs, and you will get GIFs like this. So they are not full-fledged videos; they're images, and they function in very beautifully in PowerPoint, and you can definitely take advantage of them. And in history, people can use map GIFs, and this shows how dynasties progressed, what area they had. So these GIFs are actually more interactive because they hold the attention of the person who is watching for longer, and they want to see how this GIF ends. By the time this GIF ends, we go to the next slide. That is why that is what you want. You want the audience to be hooked to your presentation. So number 4 is elements. So if you might not have noticed, I have been using various elements. I have not just been using text and visuals in the presentation. There were various elements that I used. There were circles, rectangles, squares, and triangles that I've used in various different ways. Now you might think this is very difficult to design, but this is actually nothing. This is just 3 circles overlapped on top of each other with different colors. But if you put them together like this, they look beautiful. And how can you use these elements? You can use them like this. So let's say if you took a triangle, you're teaching triangles, you can put this element on top of those, and this is your title slide, and it looks beautiful, and there's nothing else other than 3 triangles and text in this. There are other ways you can use these design elements in the slide. So these are various design elements that I've these actually don't mean anything. They don't have to mean anything. They don't have to have a purpose. They're just for the aesthetics, just to make your slide look more professional, just to make your slide look better. And if it's empty, it is going to come to life better. And so let's say the circles on the left corner here, on the top left corner here, were the circles. These were the circles that you saw, and I've just placed them there. And now, if you place that in every slide, that will look good. If you place this in with next to the title, that will look good. So these are just random design elements. Even simple lines like this, you might have noticed, the first slide of text overload had this design element, and it looked good there. So these are design elements. So you can have highlight on top of the text. You can change the color of the text with the highlight inside. You can have bottom lines that separate things. You can have rectangles that box things in. You can have bottom rectangles with circle on top to write the page number. So these so there is no rule here, and whatever looks good to you, you can put that. And how many use less design elements, but use them more consistently, which comes to the fifth tip, which is uniformity. So what is uniformity? Uniformity is being consistent. So I'm taking the example from my slides. Is as you see here, they're talking about the design element of lines here, right? So all of them almost have a uniform design. Almost all of them have a certain picture, visual, and they have a text, they have a number, they have a design element, and this is what I mean by uniformity. Keep your slides uniform, because what this does is this actually brings a continuous thought. The string of thought is not broken. People know what this is, because when I'm talking, when I'm on this slide called bullet points, they know that this is part 2 of a slide which was shown earlier previously, and which was titled mistakes. So this is the second mistake. So this is the third mistake. This is the fourth mistake. And with this design also, they can actually relate to what I was saying previously. Number 6 is minimalism. So this word has been in vogue very recently, and a lot of people are into it. And this is very, very crucial to design, because design doesn't want clutter. You don't want a very busy design, because you will then lose focus. What is the focus of my design? It will come only when you are focusing on small things. You have less number of elements to focus on. So minimalism is definitely the thing you should look at. All these slides are minimalistic. They have 3 to 4 elements at max. They have 2 colors at max and 1 visual imagery. Don't try to add as many elements as you want. Just try to limit and choose the element that best describes, best serves your purpose. With this, we come to the 7th tip, that is shortcuts. So we need to use PowerPoint shortcuts, because that is what saves your time. That is how you will actually progress into making better presentations. So right now I'm going to get back into the screen, and I'm not just going to show you a presentation. I'm going to show you how I design a presentation. So rather than just telling you the shortcuts, I'm going to show you how I make these slides while telling you the shortcuts. So the first shortcut is Control M. What this does is it just makes a new slide. So this is your usual normal slide that it looks like. And now I'm going to select these 2 text boxes, because if you want to start new, you have to delete what is there previously, right? Most people just start typing the title here, and they type this, and then they go to new bullet points. And this is why their slides usually look like the previous slides and every other slide in the world. So in order to have a new beginning, delete all of this and have a clean slate. Here we will write what the first shortcut was, which was Control plus M. This what it does is that it creates a new slide. So now we'll again go to insert. I'll again insert another text box. I will write it creates a new slide. All right. Now the next shortcut that I'm going to tell you is the most powerful shortcut in whole of PowerPoint, which is Control plus D. If you see what it did, it just duplicated the previous element. Whatever I had selected, it just duplicated that, right? If I select this and I press Control D, it duplicated this again. So this is the most time saving shortcut. This will save you the most amount of time. Now I can just change Control plus D, duplicates thing, duplicate, right? If you want to duplicate elements, things, slides even, you press Control plus D. Now there's another shortcut which is Control, first let me Control D here and then write the shortcut Control plus G. What this shortcut does is, I'll show you in a minute. Before that, let me just write what does it groups things. All right. If you want to add things into groups, this is how you will add with Control plus G. And if you want to ungroup them, I press Control D again. You will just add another key, Shift plus Control plus G. It will ungroup. It will ungroup things. All right. So these are the 4 basic shortcuts that all of you must know while you're trying to design your presentations. With these shortcuts, you need to know how I made those shapes. So I'm just going to show you that now. Before that, I don't like the background to be white here. So I'll try to make the background a bit darker. So I'll choose the rectangle shape from the shapes. I hope all of you know how to make a rectangle here. I'll just drag and make the rectangle. I'll go to arrange, I'll send it to back so that the text is visible on the front. I'll change the text color. Now I'll change the text color to white. See, the text color has been changed. These are the basic things all of you know, but now we'll move on to the more advanced things. Now, as you see, that all the text that we wrote here was in black, right? So now it's not visible. And this text that I did in white is visible. So do I have to select all the text now here and then go again, click white? I don't have to do that. What I'll teach you is another shortcut, which is I just select this and go to Format Painter, and I click on whichever text I had to control to white. So I select this, click on Format Painter and go to slide. These are the 2 things we did here. Select this, go to Format Painter, select this, go to Format Painter, this, right? These are the 2 things left. I go select this, go to Format Painter. Do I have to do it again and again if I have to change the text? No. I can just click on this once. Now, instead of clicking Format Painter once, I'll click on it twice. I'll double click it, and this will be retained. The thing that I want, the elements that I want the text to be white, will be retained. All right. Now I'm going to change the text font to Helvetica. I'll choose a more bold font, Control M. I'm going to increase the font size. I'm going to do that same here. So now instead of going to the slide, changing the font, changing the size, I'll just click on this, double click on Format Painter and do this. Okay. Now that is it. So instead of, this saves you a lot of time. Now if I want to change the color of this slide, if I want to change the color of this side, I will choose, or I'll select all of them, I'll change that color. Now if you can see, these are not aligned very well. They're not aligned. So this one is going, if I want to align them, I will have to individually go there and align them like that. If I want to space them out, if I want a little bit space in all of them, how do I go about doing that? Do I individually go about selecting every element and then putting them in their place and then putting this in front of that? No. So what you do is you just take the first element, take it to the last point you want, and then the first element to the last point you want. You select all of them, go to arrange, go to align, and you click align left. So now all of them will be aligned automatically. You go to arrange again, go to align again, and click on distribute vertically. So this will distribute them automatically. And you can do the same thing for this, right? You just select the first two. So now here we have only 4 elements. So, but if you have like 5, 6 elements, you can do that very easily with them. You don't have to worry about arranging them individually. You can do that automatically here. You again click align left and again go align, distribute vertically. So it's automatically in place. Everything is in place automatically. You don't have to actually make the effort. So let the computer do so. If you know these shortcuts, if you know these things, it's only then that it becomes easier for you to design. It's only then that you can actually go over and make the extra effort of designing your sites. Now, another thing that I wanted to show you is, let's say I want to design a title slide. And again, I click Control plus M, which is for new slide. I remove all of this. Now I want to a title slide that says workshop, because right now I'm conducting a workshop. So after shortcuts, it should come workshop. So I'll go to Google. I'll go to images.google.com. Now we have images.google.com. I'll search for design workshop. I'll just write design workshop. Let's see what kind of images we get. So these are images which are full of people. So I don't really want people here because I did not have any person in the slide, any picture of a person in the slide. So I don't want to disrupt the uniformity. So I want a flat kind of a picture which can definitely be put in the background. Something like this maybe. Yeah, this would work, I think. So instead of, so I don't know what you do, but most people try to save this picture first on their computer, and then they go to their and then they go to their PowerPoint slide and then insert the picture from there. So instead of doing that, what you can easily do is just right click this picture, just copy this image from here. You just copy the image, you go back to this slide and you just paste it. It's as simple as this. You don't have to actually save the image in your computer laptop and then go and find that in your laptop from your presentation. So here we have a very visually appealing good image, but it's very, very bright, because then if I put my text over it, it won't be visible, right? Even if I put black, because there are lots of colors. So I want a tint over this. I'll make a rectangle here, right? I will convert, I'll fill the shape to black. I don't want any outline. So this is it, but how will I make it transparent? So I'll just go to shape fill and go to more fill colors. This is where I find the transparency option. So I will increase the transparency to about 40%. I'll press OK. So this is how my slide looks like right now. If you don't want this to disturb you, you can definitely double click on it and you will go to the format tabs. Instead of double clicking, if you don't want to double click, you can definitely go to format tab from here, and then you can click on crop. You can crop this image to the slide size of the slide, and that is it, I think. Yeah. So if I show it to you, this is how it would look like. Now I can easily place my text, which will be in white over this. So I go to insert, I click on text box. Here I write workshop. I write workshop. Now, do I actually have to go to this text bar and then select the font, select the size, select the color? I don't have to do that. I can just go, if I want the text to be this big because I have to maintain uniformity, I can just go to this slide, go to the previous slide, select this outline, select this box, go to format painter, come back to this slide, click on this. It will automatically do that for me. So instead of going to a 4-step process of selecting the text font and then selecting a color, now I can easily change the color like this, right? So format painter is one of the most useful tools that will save you time. Now, if I show you the slide preview, it looks like this. It's still busy. It's still busy because there are a lot of elements. So I want even more contrasty background. So I'll make another rectangle. So now do I again go to shape fill, select black, go to select black, and then go to more fill colors? No, I don't have to do that because we have format painter. So I just take the previous, select the previous rectangle that I made, click on format painter, and then click on this rectangle. I will automatically have my rectangle which is tinted, which is a bit tinted. Okay. So now I send it backward. I'll show you just in a minute, as to how we use layers. And this is how our slide would look like now. Very, very simple, only 3 elements. I just used 2 rectangles, 1 text and 1 picture, and our slide looks quite appealing, quite good. Now, another very, very important thing that I wanted to show you was, I'll press Control M again, go to another slide, was concept of layers, right? So I'll go to insert, text box, layers. I'll write layers. What are layers? So let me just make the text a little bit big so that you can see it. Yeah. So this is how I want the text to be. I automatically went to the previous slide, format painted the text and pasted it here. Now what are layers? I'm going to show it to you here. Let's say I took the shape called circle. I press shift so that I have a perfect circle. So if my hand is free and I'm just clicking and dragging a circle like this, so it will make a uneven circle. You can actually make any shape here. You can make oval circles, things like that, right? But if you want a perfect shape, so you click on shift, you hold the shift key and then drag, so you have a perfect shape. Now I place it in the center. I go back and let's say have this color here, right? All right. Now I make another circle. Okay. If I don't want to do that, what would I do? I would just click. But if I don't want to go to circle and click and drag and press shift and then bring things here, no. I can just click on this. I can press Control plus D to duplicate this. Control plus D. So this we have 2 circles. I don't want an outline on this, so I'll just remove the outline in both of them. Now I can very easily resize this, right? So it saves a lot of time. Control plus D and Control plus and format painter are the 2 most efficient tools that you want to use in PowerPoint. It saves a lot of time. So if this is not aligned properly, you can actually go to arrange and align and again select align center. But I just wanted to show you the concept of layers here. So we'll make another circle and I change the color of this to something more light and then change the shape. And let's say something more light. Yeah. All right. So I'm just adjusting. Yeah, just to be sure that these things are aligned properly, so I'll align center and again align middle. Now it's properly aligned. I don't even have to do that manually. So now what is layers? So there are three circles here, the three shapes of circles here, three colors, and all of them are placed on top of each other. So if I select the circle on top and I want that circle to go behind, what will I do? I click on arrange, and there are two options here. In order to send back, sending back would send it to the bottom, and sending backward would send it to the next layer. So right now it's on top of the black layer, but behind the second layer, which was dark gray. But if I want to send it to the bottom, I'll select arrange and send it to back. Okay, now it's absolutely at the bottom. So what this helps us in doing is, when we want to do things like, let's say, when we want to do things like this, I want to change the color to be something like this, right? And want another shape, so I'll just press Ctrl D and select another color. All right, so now how does that layers help me? It will help me here. I'll just increase the transparency on this thing here. So now if I want the transparency to go back and I want the blue color on front, I can either bring it to front. So now like that. If I select another color, I want this to go back. So like this, I can change the color of this slide again to blue. And here we have a design element, a very easy design element. We can even change the transparency of this, let's say to 40%. And we have this design element, which is very easily made. Okay, the design element that you saw in the previous slides, it was made like this. You just know the concept of layers. Now, if you want to group it, if you remember the Control plus G, if you want to move this around, you don't have to select all of them again and again. You just press Control G and it will make this into a single unit and you can move it anywhere you want. So this is the concept of layers. The last concept that I wanted to show you. Now, another very, very important tool is a tool called remove background. If I want a logo of a workshop, something transparent, something that would help. Instead of writing logo, we can write icon. Let's see if I find something good. Yeah, this is okay because this will easily help us demonstrate how we remove backgrounds. So now if I place that here, right, because this is, I actually wanted for the workshop. Yeah, if I place that here, now this is not a transparent background. I just want this shape to exist. Now I will click on this, go to Format tab. The first option we have is of remove background. So in order to mark the areas we want to keep, we'll just maneuver this just how we want. And now we have whatever is purple will go away, will be deleted, and whatever is black will stay. So now we press keep changes, and now we can see you only have this. And in order to change the color, we can go to color and we can change the color of this to with white, and I can just easily place this here. So another design element added to this slide, which is just a small, it does nothing, just for design, just for aesthetically pleasing, just to show that it is more professionally done, just to show that there is some effort that has gone into it. So don't take it casually, just to show that. And another slide that we can easily make is something like this. We can make big circles, and I don't want any outline. I'll copy this. I will fill with another color, right? And I will add some transparency on this. I'll bring this to front, and that looks good. I'll insert a text box, and I'll write thank you. I'll get this text with a format painter. Big thank you for being here. All right, making it big. This is way too big. Yeah, I think that's good enough. So that is it, I think. I hope all of you learned something in the presentation. And if you have any questions, you can send it to me on my email. And I'll be now sharing in the group chat the link to the presentation where you can download the presentation from. And you can also find all the fonts that I told you can use. You can use those fonts. So I've shared the link in the group chat, and you can definitely take that link from there, and you can download this presentation, look at all the elements that I've shared, that I've used in the presentation, and see how it works out for you. You can use things from this presentation. You can use those elements into your presentation so that they look better. And thank you for joining, everyone. That is it. I hope all of you learned. If you want to contact me, the link is there in the chat, and you can contact me from there. My email ID is, I'm just writing the email ID as well. So I've written the email ID as well. If you want to contact me for any queries, you can. Thank you very much for joining. Have a good evening.